Welcome back to another Asian Goalie Show. My name is Felix, also known as the Asian Goalie. You're currently tuning in for the Asian Goalie Show. The mission of this show is to create the most impactful platform for beer league goalies to learn, share, and collaborate. This Twitch channel is my one and the only one channel where I collaborate with others and have live interactions with you. So last month we have the theme of things that only beer league goalies would appreciate. And this month we're gonna invite people, YouTubers who are beer league goalies, to actually join us on the show to talk about stories behind the Go Camp. So today I have Matthew, and he's known as the Crease Guardian on social media, and he started playing goalie since he was 10 and played all the way through juniors into the college hockeys, and now he has been sharing his content on Instagram and his YouTube channel. So for those of you who are tuning in, this is an Ask Me Anything or Ask Us Anything environment. If you have anything you want to talk about, comment, questions, feel free to use the chat box that you see on the right side to interact with us. I would definitely do what I can to, bring up these questions, and we could have a three-way interactions with me, my guest, and yourself. So, hello, Matthew. Are you here with us?
I am. How you doing? It's great to meet you, and it's great to be on.
Oh man, Matthew, I for the past like 20 minutes we were just talking, actually 30 minutes almost, we were just talking about like all kind of things. And you know what, I'm the first one to admit this. I would never think that you're that talkative. You're that much of a good chatter. I love it.
Yeah, most people wouldn't know me as much of a talker, but when you get into hockey or Star Wars or something like that, like I'll talk your ear off. It's a little bit of a contradiction when it comes to me.
When did you start at your YouTube channel, and how did you get started with the social media with Go Crease Guardian?
So I started off. It was actually something that I did way long time ago when I was playing juniors. I had a bunch of game film, and I wanted to make one of those highlight montages.
Okay.
So if you go back in my YouTube videos long enough, you'll see junior hockey me, which is an interesting experience. There's a couple of videos on there, and I just wanted to have fun and make videos. It was something that seemed cool. My brother at the time was doing Call of Duty montages and being really good at those. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it for hockey. I did a couple of those. I actually did a couple of NHL ones as well from like 2014 and 15, and I had a lot of fun with that. And then it kind of died away for a while, and I ended up starting goalie coaching for Future Pro Goalie School on the US side under Jeff Lerg. And I decided that I was going to revive it a little bit and do some game analysis and stuff of some NHL guys. So I did a little bit of that, and kind of got too busy for it again. And then this past summer, I decided that I was taking beer league too seriously, and I was getting really frustrated. I was getting really frustrated for no reason. I was about to break sticks on the ice, and so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get cameras, and whatever happens, and we're gonna have some fun. But at least like I'm gonna have the camera back there to make me look stupid if I break a stick over the crossbar, and then maybe I'll shame myself into not breaking sticks anymore. So that's kind of where it came about, and now I'm doing this, and I'm really enjoying it.
So for your junior, kind of like back then, what year was that? Like, is it 5 years, 6 years ago?
Let's see. I've been out of college for 4. So I graduated Adrian in 2017. So I've been out almost 4 years, and I played juniors for 5 years before that. So it started actually in 2008.
Wow.
2009 was my first year of juniors, and I played from then until 2012 for 3 different teams before I finally went to Adrian.
And back then, it's like taking YouTube videos about these kind of hockey stuff. Is that kind of like a common thing among all the goalies? No, not right.
Not really. No, I mean, my junior teams, like we didn't have a ton of cameras, like good cameras anyway. We had like your old handheld camera that we sat up at the top of the stands and like just back and forth. So
Oh,
I would get those on DVD, have to transfer it to another DVD, then have to transfer that DVD to my computer to be able to, it was a lot of work. I had actually a whole setup where I could play a DVD on the TV and record it on onto another DVD using my computer. It was, I can't believe I actually figured it out, first of all, but it was fun. I used it. I wanted to watch myself play because I wanted to, first of all, just see it because vanity, you know, and also I wanted to try and get better. And so that was part of what I was trying to do, is just make myself a better goalie. And yeah, I just ended up making the highlight videos because I wanted to look cool, you know.
So back in the days, there's no like GoPro, right? I don't know. Like, does people use the little camera behind the cam, or it's always kind of the?
I think GoPros were. I mean, I think they were kind of around, but they weren't really big. So like now I've got a couple of GoPro 7s and a little. I found an Acaso $50 one for the net because I knew it'd get hit, so I figured I'd get a cheap one. But like, it wasn't a thing when I was in juniors, for sure. It was the handheld cameras at the top and all that kind of stuff. That the video quality was poor. The audio quality was worse. If you zoomed in, it looked like nothing, but it was what I had. So I wasn't going to hate it, you know?
So I could probably call you the OG of the, you know, hockey YouTuber.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. I actually, way back when I was doing, we had talked before, I was doing like the NHL ones too. Right. And I actually spent a little bit of time talking with Trav for Oilers. I'm sure he doesn't remember me, but we talked a little bit, and we were going to meet up, but we just ran out of time when he was in town. Right. And like, yeah, I just kind of enjoyed doing it, and I've moved the video editing into this kind of hobby, I guess is what I would call it now, more than anything.
Got it. So going back to kind of the highest level, so you play in the ACHA.
Yes.
Can you tell us what this league, like, what I just want to get understanding, what level are we talking about here?
So ACHA, I guess it's technically considered club hockey, but it's not really. It's more competitive than it sounds, especially nowadays. So you've got NCAA D1 and NCAA D3, and then we're down below that. And kind of the way that I would describe it is, if you have an NCAA D1 team that's 4 lines deep, your D3 team is like 3.5 lines deep. Your ACHA D1 team is like 2.5 to 3 lines deep. Like, especially at Adrian, we could compete with a bunch of the NCAA D3 teams. But it just depends. We don't get the kind of funding that a D3 team would get, or that kind of stuff. We got lucky. We got more funding than most. But as far as the schools we would play and stuff, it was a little bit different. And the talent level of some of the teams in the league was lower just because of that.
What is the, like, in your experience, kind of what is the biggest gap between you guys at that level versus the NCAA? Like, is it because people are more talented, faster? What is that is different?
It's not always a talent gap. Like, obviously the best players at D1 are way better, right? Like, that's just how it is. But we had a guy on my team at Adrian. His name was Brad Coburn. He came in my sophomore year. The first weekend he played, he scored 7 goals in 2 games. Kid has I've been on the ice with NHLers. They've blown pucks past me, but this guy, like, anytime he came down on the ice on me in practice, it was like, well, he could probably score here. And like, I could be he was just that good. So top end talent, like, there's more top end talent, obviously, but I think that the biggest thing is the hockey sense. Like, hockey sense. I think that when you're at an ACHA D1 level, you have a larger skill gap in the hockey sense kind of area for people. So there's some guys that really know the game. There's some guys that don't, and you kind of get that mix, and that's where you get that kind of skill level. So that's really what it was for me looking at both of them. And I mean, I was never disappointed with the skill level I played against. That's for sure.
So if I were to try to go deep a little bit on the hockey sense part of thing, are you talking about kind of the understanding of the game, like not just the skill part individually, but how can he work with the team?
Oh yeah,
work with the coach and stuff?
Yeah, big time. If you really look at the way that these guys play the game and think about the game, those D1 guys just think it faster. Like they have more options by the time they get the puck on their stick, and they see more plays and they create more things, and then they have the skill to do it, right? Whereas we had the guys that had the skill to do it but didn't always think it, or could think it and didn't have the skill to do it. So like you get both ends of that spectrum, and you kind of get the really smart player that's a little bit slower, or the slower player that's really smart, and like it's not all added up to make that big piece of that D1 player, or that major junior player, or something like that.
That actually explains a lot. When I'm playing B-League hockey, it's just like I felt like there are a lot of people that are very skillful. Like they're just so good at shooting, I don't know, doing all this stuff, but they're not quote unquote like pro players.
Yes.
But I think what they're missing maybe is exactly what you said, that hockey sense, or I don't know, something about anything outside of their skill that doesn't make them a good player.
Well, it's funny because it's funny because that's something that when I play, I notice a lot. Going from my Sunday team, the Seals is a B League team that's ex D1, ex D3 college, ex East Coast AHL kind of guys. That there's some really good hockey played out there. And these Wednesday night skates that I've started putting up on YouTube is a bunch of ex Michigan Tech players that are in that league that are just they're gross. They're so good. But then I go and play with like Juicebox on a Friday night where it's a C League, and I see that gap of like, there's some guys out there that fit in perfectly. They've got great skill, they've got the smarts, and then there's other guys that have the skill but nothing else, or the smarts but nothing else, and it makes reading the play so much more difficult as a goalie. And I used to get very frustrated with it, and now I just find it humorous. I'm like, well, that'll look goofy on YouTube when you look at that goal against.
Yeah. I think that's just going back to the kind of the YouTube part, and when I'm taking highlights and stuff, it's really hard to tell. I don't know. I'm still getting the better sense of how can I present the game better in the YouTube video, rather than just highlighting my save or highlighting the goals that I got let in, because I think there's a big aspect of how the enemies, how the opponents are thinking about the game, and how they change the way they play so that they can score more on me.
Yeah, and that's something that I struggled with a little bit. So part of the inspiration for my channel was some of the golf YouTube that I watch. So a channel called TXG is a club fitting channel out of Toronto. Yeah. A guy named Mark Crossfield in the UK, like he's a golf pro, so there's a lot of that, and they do these course vlogs that are like 6 parts, and they break them up and they talk about all their shots. And like for a while I thought, well, I could just take the whole game and divide it into 3 parts, first, second, third period, and like, commentary and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but that also sounds like a lot of work for once a week video. like it'd be great, but I don't have that much time on my hands, right? So I try and leave as much context in it as I can. I try and highlight, like, once the play comes across the red line into my zone, I'm trying to leave it as long as I can so it can develop. And eventually I want to start doing more videos where I break it down a little bit like I used to, but using my clips because I'm in my own head. So I can actually like say, this is what I was thinking, and this is why I did it, and this is why you shouldn't do what I do because I suck, right? Like that's where I'm trying to get to, and it's just trying to create the right kind of things, I think is what I'm trying to get at and understand how to do still.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing that I would love to discuss more with more YouTubers out there that does doing that kind of hockey. Because I feel like there's a missing element on my
Hmm.
videos. It's like when I'm highlighting, it's just like how to edit it. Like
Yeah.
I could be lazy and just edit just the save part and the goal part and that's it. But
Hmm.
then I think there's acting an element of what that game really means to me. And that's why I started doing these kind of podcasts is I felt like I could have a lot more deeper conversation about hockey in this settings than just in a game highlight.
Yeah, and that's I want to get a mic because I think that that would be huge. And there's guys on YouTube that do a really good job with the mic and talking about what
Yeah.
they're doing and what they're and I want to have a little bit of that, but
Yeah.
I need to find the right one to do in my helmet and have with, like these guys that aren't going to break them every other game. Like I'm not in for spending that much money on this right now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I,
Fair
I
enough.
need I need to not waste $150 mics every other week. That would be bad. But like for me, it's one of those things where like I want to provide context. I want to provide what
Mm.
I'm thinking in a space. And sometimes I think it would just be boring to have me just talking over it like I'm just, watching the video and talking. So I've thought about doing like bring in buddies and we just sit back and watch a game and chirp each other. I think that would be the way to go right now.
Yeah, yeah, that was an idea that I had, and I feel like everybody should have think about it already, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just nobody ever kind of consistently do kind of this kind of things. But I got inspired. I'd be a lot of like recent. There are a lot of people talk about Canucks, for example. They will analyze a play, right? Oh, this guy is coming
Yeah.
here, and they draw on the play and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I'm like, why can't we do it on our YouTube videos or our game highlights?
And so
Like,
that's what I used to do. That was my first thing that I did with the channel when I was
mm,
working for Future Pro. Is I would
right?
go in, I would find an NHL clip. I had an app on my iPad. I would draw
Yeah,
it all out, make a
yeah, yeah,
little
yeah.
3, 4, 5 minute video,
Exactly.
and I thought they were pretty sweet. But it's hard to get a foothold. And the other funny part of it is now Future Pro Canada's director seems to have taken inspiration from some of those ideas, even though I like good for him. I think it's a good idea. I just wish that I could have executed it to more people. I guess is the only way to think about it, right?
Yeah.
He just has a bigger reach.
I felt like it's more of the people that we're talking to. It's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's not as clear as we want it to, and that's what's like just based on my own experience in working with. I work with a big influencers who have like 3 million YouTubers, YouTube followers there, and one of the thing that he's really good at is understanding who he's talking to and
Yeah.
tailoring content just for that group of people, and that's what I'm trying to get to. Is I just want to talk to beer league goalies. Like
Mm-hmm.
for people like I don't know ex pros and all that. It's great to have them here. I love to talk to them, but I know when I'm delivering a message, when I'm creating a theme, when I'm talking about things, I'm only tailoring that for beer league hockeys like myself. Like
Yeah, and then you get kind of the add-ons of whoever else kind of shows up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that would make things a lot more interesting, and it would be feel like it's a lot more meaningful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So, questions about kind of, I'm just curious, kind of understanding your transition from
Mm-hmm.
college hockey to now you're playing beer league hockey. How close were you to being drafted by the NHL or being a pro? No,
Not
nowhere
that close. Not,
Not
that
that
close.
You're really good on the camera. I'm not gonna say like it's
Well,
like you. It feels like
no, thanks. I have a fair amount of skill. Like I like to rag on myself just because it's who I am. I
right.
have that kind of self-deprecating humor and personality at times, but like I understand that I'm a pretty good goalie.
Yeah.
I've actually got an ex-goalie partner right now who's playing in the Southern Professional League who's doing pretty well. There was potential to end up going over in Europe, like if I had really looked into it, I'm sure. But all up in here, just it didn't work for me. So
Mm,
I was very much I put a lot of pressure on myself all the time to be perfect and to do this and to do that. And my freshman year of college, I actually walked onto the team because I just kind of went to Adrian because it was close by and it had 4 different teams that I could play on. So I knew I'd make one of them. I walked on. There were 2 seniors. One of them got hurt. I ended up playing really, really well and continuing to play well throughout that year. I got like a rookie of the year, a playoff tournament MVP for the league, like played really, really well. And then from that point on, it was literally like I was here and I just like I took a nosedive the next year because I couldn't.
What happened?
I couldn't grasp the idea of letting the expectations go and not wanting to do what I did the last year. Right. I had a new goalie partner, a new head coach. Like I wanted all of these things to be exactly the same.
Right.
And I couldn't grasp like, it's not going to work like that. And the harder you squeeze, like the more it's slipping through your fingers. Yeah. So I went from a 940 to like an 880 save percentage over the course of a year. That's, not a great spread. The next 2 years I played a little bit better and I still struggled with the mind side of things. I'm a goalie who gives up 1 or 2 really, really bad goals most times, but makes a couple of saves to make up for it. But like when you look at it in context, some of the teams we would play, we would beat like 11-1 or 8-2. And if one of those 2 goals is really bad and the other guy gets a shutout the other night, it's like in my head, I'm thinking, well, now I'm fighting against that goal against, and I'm fighting against the shutout. And like, I would start to put a lot more pressure on myself every day at practice and when I would go to play. And I'll be honest, it wasn't good. Like, I know where I struggled and it was all up here. Like the skill set and all that kind of stuff, I believe that I had, but I just didn't have the mentality to make it professionally. And I understood that. And I kind of burned myself out at Adrian in my last 2 years because I was pushing so hard to do all these things better and wasn't getting anywhere because I didn't realize until 2 years later that I was doing things the wrong way and I was just approaching them wrong. So that was where, when I was coaching, I was like, if I saw kids pushing in certain ways, I'm like, we need to back you off here. Like, I understand why you're doing it. That's good. But let's back you off and let's focus on something else so that we're not worried about maybe 1 goal out of 15 that you gave up. Like I gave up a couple my freshman year that were so bad and the coach was like, yeah, you're going out the next game. And then I would go with the other guys and it was like, well, am I?
I really think that, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but coming out from an outsider, like who never been there, I felt like there must be some sort of something that is not under your control. Maybe it's the culture of, oh, you must look at the stats, right? Like something along those stats, the numbers that keep us on our head. Because when I first started in hockey, I also take stats very seriously. I'm like, oh my God, like my stats sucks and all that stuff. But maybe I'm mature enough when I first started. When I was 24, I was like, okay, like this stats doesn't really mean anything. More importantly is my improvement in goalie and am I really enjoying myself. So after switching the mindset, I actually have so much more fun. But when you're going through that college period, when you have that dive, was there any sort of like pressure from your peers, from your family, from your coaches that, hey, you have to do better, or it's really just all in your head?
It was mostly in my head, to be honest. We had such a good team that year, and like we didn't play our best that year, but we had a ton of talent. So we were still able to win the league and win the league playoff and all that kind of stuff. Like we had a good second goalie, so I was pushing myself harder to try and be better than him every time. And I think that most of the pressure was inside of my own head. Like at the time, my fiance had gone away to law school in Boston, actually. So we were like doing a long distance thing. I was struggling with hockey. Like the support that I would normally lean on wasn't quite as close. And I think I struggled with that a bit. And again, just more pressure on myself to do better. Like you have to do this, you have to do this. And by the end, like, you've put so much energy into all these things that don't matter, and that you can't control, that when you have something you can control that you mess up, you're like, oh my God, this is so stupid. And you get so angry. And it's like, I wish I could go back and be like able to flush all that out, because I think that it would have significantly changed the way that things, like, my freshman year, I started off warming up. I would play soccer. We'd play 2-touch. I'd play for like an hour before the game. By my senior year, that was about 15 minutes, because I was doing my own stretching. I was doing hand-eye. I was doing like 4 different other things. I didn't want to talk to anybody. But when I first came in, I was literally like, I would show up one earphone in and I would just talk with everybody and hang out. And like, I let the enjoyment of the game go to try and make myself better, because I was like, you know, if I keep playing like I did my freshman year, I could move up to the NCAA D3 team. Yeah. I could go play pro somewhere. I could reach these goals. And like, my mind just got in the way. And I understand that now. And now,
was your goal back then very clear to you? Like, is it just, oh, I want to get better, the next level, or
pretty
you
much,
have like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty much next level. Like, I wanted to push for, like, okay, I want to move from the ACHA D1 team to the NCAA D3 team. Like, I want to move from there to somewhere in Europe or something like that. Like, I wanted to do all these things, and my connections with Future Pro, with Jeff Lerg, with Dave DeSander there, like, there were options for that. Right. When I showed up to the prospect camp, my end of my freshman year, they thought that I was one of the NCAA goalies. They just saw Adrian, so they assumed NCAA. Like, no, definitely not. Going into my junior year, when I did the camp after my sophomore year, and I had a really bad season, I was at the camp, and I had like I had a camp where it was like unbelievable. I was paired with a guy who was in the O, and for the whole week, and like just kept going, and these pros that are on the ice shooting, and like, I've got pictures of me and Brian Lerg, Jeff's cousin. Like, I make a save, and he's looking back, and he's like, what? So like, it's fun. Like, I have all that stuff, and like, that was just me having fun. But I wasn't able to transfer that into gameplay after a certain point, and that was the frustration, and that was where this all came in. It was like, make it something fun. Go make fun of yourself on YouTube if you play bad. Like, who cares? It's Sunday afternoon.
Like, who give a fuck,
3
right?
o'clock.
Like...
Yeah, it's Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. There's nobody in the stands. We're all gonna, like, guys are gonna drink beer after the game. Like, no one gives a shit if you play bad.
Yes.
Just go out and have fun.
That's what I really appreciate being a B-League goalie. It's like, I think I had the same kind of competitive mindset. Maybe not as intense as you used to be, but like, when I first started, I was so scared of how people judge my skills. Like, oh, okay, I'm so new to the sports. I never learned how to play hockey, never learned how to play like skate, and I just go in the league and just play. And what really keep me going is really the environment, how people are so supportive to me, and how appreciative they are to me just being there to play goalie for them. And that's actually give me the opposite effect. People are like, oh yeah, like, you know, no pressure means you just stay there. But I have the opposite effect, because I don't have pressure, I don't have people expectation on me, I actually do better.
Yeah, and that's the thing about me going into men's league and stuff. It was, I still had put that pressure on myself, because I'm like, I'm really frustrated with, like, God, I'm playing men's league, like, I've got to win still. And it's like, no, dude, just shut up and go show up. Like, they're just happy someone's willing to get puck shot at them once they're done with competitive hockey. They don't care. Like, that's the thing, is now you're the most appreciated guy on the ice.
Yeah, I think that's something that I found a lot of the skillful players, goalies, skaters, same like yourself. It's just like, they have this thing going on in their head. They just feel like, I'm not satisfied, I need to get better. I can do better than that. Like, they would like swear really hard when they are just like miss just a tiny bit. I'm like, oh, really?
My last practice in college, I absolutely shattered a stick over the boards because it was an optional skate at nationals and I was scratched. So I went and I skated and I'm like, this is the last time I'm on the ice as a college hockey player. And I lost it on one of my teammates for no real good reason. I'll be perfectly honest. Like, sorry, bud, but I lost it. And I went and I took my stick and I tomahawked it over the bench and broke it like in 3 different places and threw it and got it.
Oh,
and
damn.
like, I was not happy, but like a redhead temper is a real thing. And I used to be real bad with it.
Were you ever given a chance to play pro at all?
No. And it's probably for the best because I think honestly it would have frustrated me more because I would have held myself to like such a standard that I would have been like, well, now you can't give up goals against these guys. And it's like, well, that's not how this works, but okay. So like looking back, like I made the choice my senior year. I was like, even if I play really, really well and someone offers me something, like I'm not going to do it because it's not like I have other goals in my life. I want to be able to do these other things. So like, I just decided that was not the way to go. And I didn't play well enough to get anybody to tell me that they wanted me. So that, kind of made the decision for me. But like at the end of the day, it wouldn't have made a difference for me. I still would have ended up in the same place.
How are your family supporting you throughout this journey? Like family, friends?
Awesome. My family vacations from the time that I started at about 10 until the time that I graduated college at 24 were almost always to my hockey in one way or another. We would go to Boston for hockey, Chicago for hockey. We drove everywhere. Miami University in Ohio, I would go to the summer camps down there. So we would go spend a week down there once a year. Like that was our vacation, right? Like, but they were all so supportive. And my dad ended up my last year of juniors, I was in New Jersey. And so I went to New Jersey. I lived with a billet family out there. They were awesome. When I came back, my dad ended up moving to Japan for his job. So throughout college, he was in Japan watching every game that we played that was broadcast at like, 2-3 in the morning. He's watching on YouTube as we're playing. And like, he was able to fly back for my senior night. Like my parents have always been so supportive with everything. And they were just like, if this is what you want to do, go for it. Like, we're not going to, that was the thing, is they didn't push me towards it. They were like, if this is what you want to do and you think that you want to do it, go ahead. And so that was what they let me do. And even my fiance, who was a little stressed every time I was in the net, to say the least, was great. She was always at games and
Why would she be stressed? What do you think? Where is this coming from? Is it the dangerous, the risk of you getting into?
No, it's the control, that she doesn't have control over what I'm doing. So, and she wanted me to do really well, obviously. So she wanted to help however she could.
Right.
And there was nothing she could really do. Like, it just was a matter of if I was going to be any good or not. So my mom and my sister were all quite stressed for a lot of the games, which was always humorous. There was a shootout we had against Western that they were all sitting in like the front couple of rows at home. And one of them was on FaceTime. I think Ariel was on FaceTime, my fiance. She was on FaceTime and they're watching, and I made the save and I like saw all of them jump up, and it was fun, but like they were really stressed. And
good stress sounds like, not bad stress.
Well, it really depends on how I was playing that day. I can totally understand why, and I can totally understand why they might have been okay with me not going any further than I did.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, let's go back to kind of your like YouTube channel a little bit.
Yeah.
What would be kind of your message that you want to share with the world right now? What's coming up?
So I've got like hopefully so I've got a spring and summer season coming up, which is great. I'm gonna have consistent games twice a week, so I'm gonna hope to have a lot of those videos out. But I'm really trying to find a way to make the game and the YouTube channel exciting for everybody, like watching some sort of broadcast or watching something where it's like, okay, I can get really into this because I'm getting to know, you know, the personality of the goalie and the players and all that stuff. And so if you're watching, like, even if I don't get to some of the plans that I have, like if you're watching and you can just learn a little bit more about the game, like that's why I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to show you like what I think is important and how I think that you can improve a game and stuff like that. And just watching hockey helps, right? It always helps you to develop that.
What do you think is missing from a channel right now? Like what kind of elements or?
So I think that the one thing that's missing is some sort of mic, whether it's me on a mic in the game talking, or maybe if I pull this guy out and I do a little commentary over the top, because I actually have a background in it. I did it at school. I would do commentary on our D3 team and all the other teams at school. So like I have the background in it, and I think it'd be fun to add some sort of element to it, but I don't want it to sound so staged that it's like it's already happened. It's not like I'm watching the game live, right? So I want it to have some sort of flow where it seems like it's still nice. So that's I think the biggest thing missing right now is some way to really pull viewers in and really care about me and what I'm doing, because I want to show that personality. And that's like I try and put little funny quips in there and stuff and show it off a little bit, but that's where I think that I can grow things more.
I think one of the things that I felt is like that's like the same comment that I heard from I believe the oldish goalie. He went on another podcast with just your average goalie on podcast. The oldish goalie actually suggested you go on to his show. And
I actually get to do that one in a couple of weeks. I'm excited.
That's good. I like one of the things that I agree with oldish goalie is like I felt like you're too underrated. Like I felt like like the thing that you can offer is so much bigger, but it's not very well received from the other end. And I think that's come from, I don't know if it's because of your humbleness from your side, or you're not yet confident enough to kind of talk about this kind of your stories or history. I think you can totally talk more, because I felt like it's so easy for me to go like, oh wow, like, you know, Matthew is so good at this, so that, but people have to really watch it a few times before they really know how good you are. And I feel like it's just missing that thing that could be a turning point of a channel that people will watch you more, because I felt like to me you're pretty much a pro. You're just too humble to not say about it.
Yeah, so that's it is part of like my personality. I don't want to come across as an asshole or like as I'm so full of myself that like, oh my god, I'm like the best goalie on here or whatever. Like I'm fully confident in my ability to like make these saves and stuff, but I've always as a little bit of a defense, I've always deflected it to like, yeah, I suck, I'm terrible, like just don't care, because I do give up those goals that people look at me and they're like, you're kidding, right? Like that went in. But then I go and I make a different save and it's like, oh well, okay, I guess that kind of makes up for it. So that's one of the things that I am trying to figure out, is like I would like to leverage the fact that I play in a league full of, I mean, ex-pro guys. There's a guy who I play against that was at UNO, Nebraska, and literally I've seen him with his ass to the wall off of a face-off take a shot without moving and go bar down over a goalie's ear.
Yeah.
Like just the most ridiculous shot I've ever seen in my life. Because I was subbing for him, and I'm like, I'm glad he didn't do that against me, because like that was good. And like I'm trying to find a way to not come across as someone who's so full of themselves and still says like, hey, you know what, I'm not bad at this, you know, like. And that's where in my channel I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to go and be like, wow, you're like, I'm so much better than you, you know.
I got to say this though, like I think that is one of the hurdles that I have to go through before I start the YouTube channel as well. It's just like I always ask myself, like, what am I offering here in this channel?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I doing this, and why do I care so much? And maybe in some way, like you can resonate with this, but it's like it's the same thing. I feel like, you know, I don't want to come across being arrogant, being the guy who just showing off how good I am, and end up, you know, people might think I'm actually not. And that's the biggest hoop that I have to go through is when you're getting more attention to the world,
Yeah,
there will always be someone who just don't agree with you, and it's totally fine. But when you're okay with that and actually be who you are, like talking like right now, the way you talk, I'm like, I don't see that side of you in your YouTube channel. I'm like, that's not you in your YouTube channel. That's really interesting. So if you can show more who you are just now here in your YouTube channel, I think that would make your YouTube channel already so much more like good to view. Like I would tune in a lot more, like really. But
no, that
feels
honestly
like
makes sense.
Yeah,
And that's where like either getting a mic or doing this and like picture in picture or whatever, like I want to have something where I can show that off, because it's a struggle for me to be like, well, I play really well, but how do I like get that across when I don't have a microphone on the ice, or I don't have this or that? So like if anyone has any suggestions, fire them at me. I'm all ears. Like I'm not going to say that I'm the biggest idea guy sometimes. So like, that's where for me, it's like, well, I want to go about this, and like, just part of it for me was just, like I said, I'm trying to have fun with hockey. And when I have fun with hockey, it's me just going out and screwing around, and I end up making a 2-pad stack save because like, why the hell not? Right? Like that's how I've always played better. And again, I didn't realize any of this that I've said until after I graduated college. So by the time my competitive career was over, I automatically became a better goalie than I ever was, which is kind of funny. But for me, like the hardest thing for me to do is to find a way to put my personality into videos in a way that I find is going to fit the video. Cause like, I want to have the hockey kind of highlighted. And I think that if I have myself talking over it, it kind of changes it. And that's part of the reason I've talked about doing with some buddies. I've talked about like, literally we come down, we watch the game, and I just tape it, and like whatever I find funny, I'll throw it up. I'll throw it up in there, and like I think it'd just be fun, because when we play NHL online, like it's nonstop chirps, and I think that would be something to endear it to people a little bit more. So that's honestly been a struggle for me so far.
I don't want to like just like, maybe it's better to come out from my mouth than your mouth. Maybe you feel like safer that way. But like, I would say like, you're just way too humble. Like from what you told yourself and from what you're showing there, if people actually take the time to watch your videos and understand how you position yourself, how your footwork does, it's just like, to me, it's insane. Like I would never get to that level. And you have so much to offer, and I think what you're missing, from my understanding, is you're finding that camera character that you want to be, that you feel comfortable with, and I think you will find it as long as you keep going. And I'm still finding my own. And it's funny, like I started doing this podcasting like starting January. I never thought I enjoyed myself so much doing this, although I'm not playing
it's
hockey.
Crazy, right?
It's kind of crazy.
Absolutely crazy, because I love the video editing portion of it too. And I find that when I'm editing things, I have a lot of fun. Like I throw in the highlights and the little things, and I find that to be a really enjoyable part of things. And I try and let my personality come through a little bit there. And so for me, I'm trying to build on that still, and like it's much harder than it seems. It really is. Like
I agree.
It's really tough to all of a sudden turn on this personality or be like, well, hey, like this is it. So I started to do little clips at the start and the end, and I try and bring in my personality that way, and like just to create more of that is I think where I'm gonna have to go. I just have to find a better way to do it, I guess.
And honestly, I do feel the change that you've made. Like I've watched like a video that you have like a year ago, and now the recent ones, I can feel like you're trying to make a new style of things going on. And what I found the transition, the difference that you have is like I can see a lot more you recently on your recent videos than previously. Like you add a little bit of your thoughts. You don't mind to talk, you know, a little bit exaggerations on the title, right in the beginning. It's like, oh yeah, you know, like I can feel that. That's a good transition there already, but it takes time, right?
No, it absolutely does, because it's one of those things where you have to get comfortable doing each step of it, and like to get comfortable enough to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I am pretty decent at this. Like maybe I can push this kind of side of things, you know?
Yeah.
So it's something where I'm like, I'm trying to come up with the best way to push the fact that, yeah, I'm pretty decent, but I'm also not like taking myself seriously anymore. Yeah. Like if I take myself seriously, I will snap a stick over the crossbar. And that's $200 and something that I have to pay that I don't want to pay. Like quite literally, that's what it is, right?
At the end of the day, it's the wallet. That's it.
No,
that was the reason why you haven't made good reasons yet.
That's the only reason I don't break a stick every other week is my wallet. I have golf clubs. I'm a huge golfer. I'm a huge gamer. I'm a goalie guy. My hobbies are way too expensive. Way too expensive for me to just take a stick and smash it over the crossbar. So I can't do that anymore. I can't.
Yeah, for those of you who are tuning in right now, maybe you considered having like a charity for Matthew.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
To save up for sticks charity.
Can we get a GoFundMe for sticks? Yeah. I'll break one every week if you guys buy them for me. But otherwise, I can't afford that. The last time I really lost my temper on the ice was last summer or 2 summers ago. I can't remember, but we were playing. It was a championship game, and I played bad. And I gave up a goal in overtime that I thought I should have had. I lost it, and I launched my stick at the end wall, and just I'm fuming. It's Sunday night at 7:30 in July. Who cares that you gave up a bad goal? Like, who cares? So it was like a couple weeks later that I was like, I gotta find a way to not do that again. So that was where this came from, and like I'm glad I'm having so much fun doing it, and I want it to come across that I'm having fun doing it, right? And so that's where, whether like maybe I've got a Wednesday night skate that I'm cutting, and maybe I'll do some of this where I try something out and be like, just a little bit of talking over it, like. Then it can be fun, and I can use it to educate a little bit, because that is something that I want to do with it. I want to help people become better goalies, because that was the original goal of the channel when I was still coaching. So to do that, I think would be a good way to go, and maybe bump both things.
One of the video that I come across in your channel, and you kind of share with the little YouTube groups that we have about the mental health side of things.
Yes.
If you don't mind me asking a little bit deeper questions on that,
not at all.
I would love to kind of hear your why you care about it so much, and is there anything you kind of want to add onto your channel on that aspects of things as well?
Yeah. So my reason is really, there's a couple of layers to it. Number one is from the time that I was about 17, I've struggled with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. Like all of those things have been very real for me. And I've found that I've struggled to talk about it in meaningful ways over time and deal with it, right? Like it's 11 years since then. Yeah, I'm only 28 still. It's 11 years since then. And I still struggle with it almost daily, right? It's something that doesn't go away, and it's something that doesn't always get easier. And so I want it to be easier to talk about. And one of the things that I love is the goalie guild and his lift the mask idea. Yeah. And the way that Robin Leonard has embraced similar ideas. Like, I think that I had a coach in juniors and I love him to death and he's a great guy. But one of the things that I had an issue with, I was 19. I was not playing great. We were on a team that was pretty good. And at one point in the year, I was like, look, coach, like I'm struggling. Like I got broken up with, I've not handled it well. I'm struggling with these depressive thoughts. Like I drive home from school and I want to hurt myself, like all of these things. And like, I tried to really come to him and be like, look, this is what's happening to me. Like, I'm still here. I'm still trying to play and I'm trying to find a way to handle it. But sometimes I need help and I need to have that bad day just acknowledged and move on. And the only thing he gave me was man up. And I'm like, that's not helpful to me. Like I left that conversation feeling like I had been judged and been placed into this box of, well, now if something something goes wrong for him, he's shot. Like,
yeah, he's weak, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it frustrates me to no end that is a thing that is out there. And so that's the personal experience for me is huge there. The other part of it is my uncle, who worked in Detroit radio for 97 Won the Ticket, and did basically all of CBS radio and Entercom radio's voiceovers for commercials. He did all sorts of stuff for Ford Field and Comerica Park, a couple of big law firms around here. Like, if you live in the Detroit metro area, you probably have heard his voice more often than you realize. And a couple of years ago, he committed suicide, and it blindsided me. Like I used to golf with him all the time. We would go walk golf courses and just hang out and have fun. And we were the two hot tempered ones. So we always got put in the same cart if we went somewhere. And like, it blindsided all of us. And I mean, his funeral was a couple hundred people. Like all of the, like, I met one of my heroes from hockey, Ken Cal, who does the radio call for the Detroit Red Wings, and had this conversation with him about my uncle and about hockey and all of these things that, like, I would have loved to have my uncle there for that conversation, first of all, but just like, I got to have this conversation with him, which was great, but I'm having it at my uncle's funeral, and it didn't, like, it was a struggle to comprehend. And so I know what it's like to deal with on a personal level, and I know what it's like to deal with when someone in your family goes through it and loses that fight with their mental health. And it's awful. I mean, I haven't gone to a certain golf course that we used to play since he passed away, because I can't get myself to go to there. Right. And I don't want to see other people deal with that. Like, no one should have to, or should feel that they have no other option than that. And to me, like, that's something that I want to help to give people an outlet, right? Like, give them someone who, like, at least knows, hey, this is hard, and maybe maybe it's different for me than it is for you, but I want to give you an outlet to at least be able to discuss it, because someone on the other side of this is going to hurt because of that too. And I don't want other people to have to deal with that hurt, and to it's a hard thing, right? And I sometimes struggle to come up with what I want to say or how I want to say it, but I miss my uncle, like I miss going golfing and him hitting a bad shot and swearing at himself and lighting a cigarette as he walks down the fairway. We went to Arizona on a trip one time, and my dad, my brother, my uncle, and I were there. And I miss both of us getting angry and sitting in the golf cart and not talking for the drive to the next hole because we played so bad. I miss stuff like that, and I would love to show him this channel, because I think he'd have some great ideas on how to improve it, and how to use my mics and those things, and where to put cameras. And I don't want that experience and that thought to have to be missing from someone else, right? Mm-hmm. And so the mental health side of things is so important to me, and I sometimes still don't take my own mental health as seriously as I should, and that's part of the reason for this channel, is honestly to cope with the mental health aspect of playing men's league. And hey, sometimes you suck, but it's okay. Yes. It's okay to give up 12 goals in a game on a Sunday, because the next Sunday you're probably going to get your team scoring 12 goals for you, and it is what it is. So I want to try and do a little bit more of that too, if I can, just to help people, because it's such a big thing, and it's hard to really understand what it's like if you've never gone through it. And having gone through it on both sides, I want to give people a way to talk and to try and figure these things out at least a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the I would say I have a really interesting perspective about this, but as much as the pandemic going on is crazy for the past year, I felt like because of this, mental health becomes a more common topic to talk about, because now everybody have to stay home. Now everybody have to kind of not work out, a lot more restrictive. So people are a lot more aware of the mental health issue is there. And I personally felt that, but of course, never at the level of a lot of people does in terms of but I really felt like it's not about how bad your mental health issue is. It's just the same on the physical side. It doesn't matter you're 300 pounds and you're overweight, but it's just more of people be willing to talk about it and listen and talk, and just make it just another topic to talk about that we have in common, right? I think we're just missing that kind of platform, missing that kind of way of saying things. And yeah, I appreciate that you share that, and I'm really sorry about your uncle, and I can feel that myself.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of the things that as humans we struggle to not compare one thing to another, right? And so we struggle to be well, is my mental health worse than yours? It can't be like that. It's not like I'm 65% and you're 75%. That's not how it works, right?
Yes.
And we need to be able, that's part of the reason I think that mental health is so hard for people to discuss and to move on with, because it's not set in stone and it's not comparable. My bad day isn't the same as your bad day, and that's okay. I still had a bad day for me, whether it's a good day for you or a bad day for you or whatever, it's still a bad day for me. And that's we need to be able to address it that way. But we struggle between being grateful for what we have and also understanding that maybe I still had a bad day. Sometimes those things don't coexist when they can. I can still be very grateful that I'm in halfway decent shape. I get to work. I enjoy working from home because like I'm more of that kind of way. Like it works for my personality. So I enjoy it. Like I've enjoyed this. I get to play, my video games at night when I want. I get to golf when I want. I get to play hockey when I want still. Like I have all those things going for me, but I can still also have a bad mental health day, and like none of those things really make a difference for me. But we struggle with that sometimes as people, to be like, they aren't mutually exclusive,
Yeah. I totally agree with you on that. And I don't know, I'm a lot more aware of my mental health. Like, I really hate to say it, like, you never have to be diagnosed to have certain like mental health issue to say you have a mental health problem. I think everybody have some sort of mental health problem, but it's just to what degree. And it's, again, I very much agree with what you said on the part where it's not a comparison. It's more of a, you have to talk about it kind of thing. And because of this, mental health is also something that is very hard to see, physically see. Like overweight, you can see, oh, you have a belly. Oh, you always sit down. Oh, you never worked out. Like these kind of things is a fact that people can say all the time. But mental health is just like, nobody know what's going on in your brain. Nobody know how you feel. And that's why I've been putting a lot in practice is I will share a lot more of my feelings to people, no matter they're strangers, no matter, who they are. And I always ask the question, how do you feel about this? Right? How are you thinking about this? Right? You have to be like, you have to create a safe environment for people to share that feeling. Like your example of when I believe your coach to ask you to man up, for example, right? It's just like, it's not about him thinking you're weak, but you just felt like he shut down that door of you sharing what you exactly are feeling.
Yeah, and he could absolutely have taken me very seriously and understood what I was saying, but when his only advice was to man up in that situation, it felt like he was just brushing it off. And maybe he wasn't, but there was like, it hurt that trust where I had to go to him and say those things. And that's where I'm kind of like, we need to have a better way to do that sometimes, to have these discussions sometimes. And like, I'm always there for people to reach out. Like if you find me on YouTube or on Instagram, like if you message Goal Crease Guardian and you say something, I will message you back. I try and be good about messages and comments and stuff, but like, if you have something you want to talk about, talk to me. Like by all means, that's what I'm here for. I'm not going to say no because I don't know you, because like, that's not, you never know when someone needs that, like just that chat. So that to me is something that I'm very, very passionate about still, that like,
and I would tell everybody this, right? Like I reach out to Matthew without we having any interactions, and he just like, I'll get on the show. Let's do it. Yeah. And before that, I can almost sure that he doesn't even know what my show is about. What is it about, right? He just come on and...
believe it or not, I'm a really introverted guy.
Yeah.
Legitimately, it took me probably a month and a half to get up the courage to send a Facebook message to my fiance the first time that she nearly laughed in my face about. And now she does laugh in my face about it. But I'm getting married to her, so it works. Like, I don't like to reach out, but if someone reaches out to me, I will talk. Or like, if I know you, I'll talk to you. Like, I may be an introverted person, but if some sort of conversation is made, I'll do it. And like, I'll talk. I will talk your ear off. Like, I have no problem with that. I come across as very introverted because it's what works for me. Like, it's just how I am. But by all means, totally reach out. Like, if you have something to say, talk to me. I am here for that.
I'm an introvert as well, and I always think what makes introverts so special is we are much better listener to a lot of people. And I really appreciate going on the show. I think this is the best time for us to kind of segue and kind of close off the show here. We're at just a little bit over 1 hour here, and so for those of you who really enjoy the conversation here and you want to continue to follow Matthew's journey, he has this Instagram as well as the YouTube channel, right? Search the Go Crease Guardian, you will also able to find his videos there and share his message that he wants to share there. And for me, right, I also got exclusive content about my beer league goalie journey on my channel as well. Despite I don't have any games right now, but I'm also trying to find ways to kind of deliver my own message, as an Asian goalie as well. And if you have anything you want to hear more about beer league hockey, any suggestions, comments, feel free to join the Asian goalie community. I have a Discord server that I set up there, or follow me on Instagram at the Asian goalie. So in the upcoming weeks, we're going to have more beer league goalies who are YouTubers who will also join us for the next 3 weeks. So feel free to join us here. Again, same time, same location. I will always welcome you to here, and I would love to hear more your comments and questions as well. Matthew, thank you so much for joining the show here. Really, really appreciate it. I had so much fun. I
had a great time. Thanks for having me, Felix. I'm happy to jump on and do this again. It was great.
I'll see you guys next week on the Asian Goalie Show. Same time, same location. Have a good day.